this day before New Year's Day, and it's a delight to spend it with you here this morning. So this morning we're going to follow on with the first of the 4 reminders, and that is, if you remember from Pranyanita's introduction last night, that is this precious human life, this precious opportunity that being born as a human being presents. And so I'm going to talk a bit about self-reflexive awareness, that great gift that we have as a human being, what characterizes perhaps us as human beings. We'll then follow that talk on with a meditation. We'll do a mindfulness of breathing. There'll be a tea break after that, a 10-minute tea break, around 11:25. So fear not, there will be a comfort stop about an hour through, about halfway through this morning. Yeah, we finish at 12:30. So there will be a second talk after the tea break about our endowments, what are traditionally known in Tibetan philosophy or thinking as the freedoms and endowments. They're another way of looking at our the preciousness of this human birth, this human life. And that'll be followed by a practice which you might not have done before, a meditation practice called the Katanyata Bhavana, which is a meditation practice focused on considering our blessings and cultivating gratitude on the basis of that consideration. So we'll finish this morning's session with a Katanyata Bhavana practice of about half an hour. Great. Okay, well, very warm welcome to everybody, particularly all of you who were here last night, and also particularly to anybody who has joined us for the first time this morning on this 4 reminders retreat. So as Pranyanita was telling us last night, the 4 reminders are kind of a preliminary practice, particularly in Tibetan Buddhism, where Tibetan Buddhism has been very fond of systematizing practice, and the 4 reminders are seen as a kind of foundational, a sound foundation on which to build the rest of the practice. So the 4 reminders are the preciousness of human birth, which we're focusing on this morning, and then we'll move on from that reflection this evening to the more perhaps challenging area of the impermanence of human life, looking at death. It kind of seems appropriate as we leave the old year. The old year dies, the new year begins. So reflection, that's the second of the reminders, or the reflections. These are reflections. It perhaps instills a sense of urgency in us. Life is short. Let's get on with it. The third of the reflections is that my actions make a difference. Actions have consequence. It's about karma and the results of karma is action and the results of action. Karma vipaka. So time is limited. We will all die, but we can make a difference in the short span of time that we have available to us. We can make a difference. We can make the world a better place. We can contribute to our happiness, the happiness of others. And then the fourth of the reminders or reflections is sometimes phrased as the defects of samsara, or the fact of suffering. So this world is unsatisfactory. The ultimate happiness or fulfillment is we're not going to find it in perhaps the usual places we look. And this, of course, this sense of we have to limit our expectations in terms of happiness in relation to this contingent world, is a spur to practice, a spur to go for refuge to what can really bring us ultimate happiness and satisfaction. And of course, according to Buddhism, that's the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. So the four reminders confront us with the reality of the human condition, the human predicament, and they provide motivation to turn towards the Buddhist teachings on the basis of a real, authentic sense of what human life presents. So getting real and acting on the basis of that, going for refuge, turning towards the three jewels as our true source of happiness. So that's a brief summary of Pranyanita's excellent introduction last night. Very brief introduction. So today we're focusing on this precious human birth and the opportunity that it provides us and the blessings that come with it. So it's a kind of positive, affirmative place to start, isn't it? So a fundamental characteristic of human life is self-reflexive awareness. This is the first great gift, if you like, that I want to focus on, self-reflexive awareness. That ability we have to be aware of our perceptions, our senses, both physical and mental. So Buddhism does see the mind as a sense. So those thoughts, those emotions, where we can be aware of them, and we're aware that we're aware. We're not just aware, but we're aware that we are aware. And we can, this allows the possibility of looking back, if you like, on our experience and evaluating it and responding on the basis of that evaluation. And crucially, what this capacity allows us to do is to choose. It's to choose our direction in life, to choose our direction from moment to moment, to exercise our free will, to act on our desires, and to formulate our intentions according to those desires. And we can harness this ability, this capacity to choose our direction. We can base it rather on our ability to evaluate, to monitor our environment and evaluate not just our environment, our actions, our lives. It allows us to look at them and say, oh, well, this is good for me, that's not good for me. This is wholesome, that's not wholesome. So it allows us this capacity to evaluate, as opposed to the danger, if you like, of being a slave to our conditioning, to those chance habits that we've developed. So this ability, this capacity to choose is there on a moment-to-moment basis. It's there obviously in the bigger picture of our life, but it's also there on the moment-to-moment basis. And I want to focus on that ability to choose direction on a moment-to-moment basis to start with. And we talk about this in terms of bringing awareness into the gap. So the gap is that space in between our experience of the world, our experience of that very fundamental experience of the world in terms of pleasure and pain. So that's, we go around our daily lives and constantly we're experiencing pleasures and pains. And we respond on the basis of that, don't we? Generally, we're avoiding the pain and we're seeking the pleasure. Now, potentially, we're simply locked into habits and we're automatically craving the pleasures and automatically pushing away the pain. But what awareness in the gap, in immediately following the experience of pain and pleasure, bringing awareness to that moment allows us to recognize what are the wholesome desires coming into play in that moment. So that pushing away of pain, or that grasping of the pleasure, is that actually wholesome? Is that good for me? We can come in through awareness into an evaluation of what is wholesome. And with that, we can, if we run with that evaluation, we formulate skillful intentions on the basis of that evaluation. And skillful intentions lead to skillful behavior. In other words, behavior that will make us happy, behavior that is helpful for us in the longer term. And what happens, of course, we are creatures of habit. And once we establish a certain behavior, then it becomes a habit. And a set of habits become who and what we are, if you like. And if all of this is backed up with awareness in the moment, well, then we have choice here. We can direct our lives. We can shape our habits according to our values. That's the crucial point, really. With our choice in choosing direction, we can choose to align our actions according to our values. And this is the basis of according to Buddhism, this is the basis of our transformation. This is the basis of our freedom from just those habits, that conditioning that we've received from, whether it's our culture, our upbringing, our education, our own previous actions. Because once, as I say, once we start a certain behavior, then it easily becomes crystallized in the form of a habit. So this awareness in the gap really is the basis of the possibility of enlightenment. And I think it's probably an important point to make that this skillful behavior that can rise through bringing awareness into the gap, it's a natural capacity that we all have. It's not something that's imposed from outside. It's not like, say, a set of commandments that have been handed down. It's a natural, Buddhism sees it as a natural expression of our humanity. Given the right conditions, this is how we will behave. So enlightenment is an inherent capacity of self-reflexive awareness. And this is why it is such a gift. This is why we are so blessed living human lives with self-reflexive awareness. It's like part of the deal, contained as at least a seed within self-reflexive awareness, is enlightenment itself. It's sometimes formulated or expressed in the Buddhist tradition as our Buddha nature, this inherent capacity for enlightenment. So Buddha nature. And it's seen as I say, intrinsic to this self-reflexive awareness or consciousness. And it is very much this Buddha nature, it's there, if you like, in our depth. Buddhism has a very optimistic view of human nature and sees this capacity that we all have in our depths. And it really is a question of how do we contact that capacity, that Buddha nature, and live from it. That's fundamentally what all our practice is geared towards. And the root of our capacity to respond to what we value, to what is wholesome, what we see as wholesome, is this Buddha nature, that it's there as, if you like, in potential, and it's resource. So a Buddhist sutra called the Ratnagotra Vibhaga Sutta says, if the element of the Buddha did not exist in everyone, there could be no disgust with suffering, nor could there be a wish for nirvana, nor a striving for it, nor a resolve to win it. So in a sense, this Buddha nature, in whatever sort of seedling state it is, or maybe highly developed state it is, it's a kind of promise of enlightenment. It's a whiff of the possibility of enlightenment. Okay. So that's a bit on what I would describe as the most fundamental bedrock blessing that we all have as human beings. Um, I'll develop that theme further to see what that bedrock ability blessing supports. And uh, Buddhism would say, well, um, our human life as a blessing is actually only a blessing on certain conditions. And the Tibetan tradition describes these conditions, these what it describes as the freedoms and the endowments that, if we're aware of, we can actually engage with and cultivate. So I'll describe that after a period of meditation. So let us adopt our meditation postures. I invite you to make yourself comfortable. For a period of, say, about 35 minutes or so of mindfulness of breathing. And I'll lead us into this meditation. So finding our stable posture with upright, balanced. We're looking for a posture that allows us to be alert and relaxed at the same time. It's different for every one of us. Feel that connection with whatever is supporting us, those contact points. And allow your weight to drop into those contact points, particularly on an out breath. Relaxing your weight, surrendering under gravity into whatever is supporting you, the chair, the mat, the cushion. So dropping into our bodies. So nothing to achieve over the next period, no tick lists to work on. You're giving yourself this time to attend to your breath. We have, it's estimated, something like between 15,000 and 70,000 breaths a day, depending on your physical health, your fitness, your age, your exercise level. We're giving ourselves the opportunity to notice the breaths over the next period of 30 minutes or so. It's an opportunity to clock our breathing for this period. Just to be aware, to notice, to appreciate, to attend to the breath. The breath as an anchor for our minds. Maybe as I speak, you're beginning to get a sense of your breath. As long as we're alive, the breath is there for us to attend to provide us with an anchor, to settle the mind. To drop out of that constant striving to achieve. To be present in the moment. Dropping into a stillness of body that might support a stillness of mind. So a 30-minute period of the mindfulness of breathing with bells for the 4 stages. As the practice draws towards a close, I invite you to try and make an intention for the 10-minute tea break, that if you have contacted any stillness, any concentration, sense of presence in the moment, try and make an intention to take that with you off the cushion into the 10-minute break. So take your time to transition from the meditation So take a stretch or a comfort break or a cup of tea, and I look forward to being back with you at 25 to 12. It's been a real pleasure, I must say, a sense of meditating with all of you this morning here in this virtual here that we dedicated last night. Yeah, a real privilege. Great, welcome back. Before I launch into my talk on the what are traditionally called the endowments and freedoms, let me just say that, this format of our presentation doesn't allow for much interaction and questions. So there will be an opportunity for you to come together with any questions that you might have, or comments, or sharings in the afternoon slot. That's what the afternoon slot is partly focused on. So we'll be coming together at 4 o'clock for an hour and a half. And well, hopefully, it'd be lovely to see you there. And there'll be an opportunity there to do a short reflection on the material that I'm covering. And there'll be a breakout session. We'll form groups. And by the way, if you want a particular group, please do contact teaching at westlondonbuddhistcentre.com. Just leave a request to be in a particular group if that's what you want in the afternoon session. on teaching@westlondonbuddhistcentre.com. So we'll have groups, and there'll also be a chance where we all come together after the groups, and you can bring any questions that may still hang in the air at that point, and we'll try and explore the ideas, the teachings further. There'll also be a meditation in the afternoon slot, so it won't be all discussion. We'll finish the afternoon slot with meditation. Okay, so what I was talking about this morning was that we have this incredible gift of the self-reflexive awareness, and with that, or inherent in that, is the potential for enlightenment, often expressed as our Buddha nature. But it is a potential, it's a seed. And for that seed to germinate and to fructify, certain conditions have to be in place as a human being. So, but these are called, these freedoms, endowments are available, potentially available to us as human beings. So Tibetan Buddhism kind of looks at what these freedoms, endowments might be, lays out the potential conditions for us to realize our full potential as human beings. So I'll go through those over the next 25 minutes. So there's nothing, I suppose what I'm saying is there's nothing automatic, obviously, about that Buddha nature seed coming to full fruition. But there are certain conditions that are described as, and some of them are very obvious in a sense. So, for example, the way it's put traditionally in Tibetan teaching is one of the endowments is, and it's a kind of this external endowment of dwelling in a central country. It's otherwise put as not living in a tribe, a border tribe or region. So maybe you can imagine in Tibet, you know, what it's like living in a border tribe or region. But essentially, I imagine what this is about is that we have the basics of stability and law and order in our social context, so that we have the basics for a dignified life available to us. You know, food, shelter, relative security, relatively safe on the streets. Say that we have maybe the potential for fulfilling work. That we have access to family and or friends, maybe that we have some leisure time, you know, all those factors that we can think of that lead to a dignified life. These are all possibilities as human beings. Furthermore, the Tibetans talk about probably quite an important endowment, which we maybe take for granted, which is a toleration of religious minorities. You know, it's not every country in the world where we have the sort of liberal democracy as we have in the UK. I heard a talk a couple of years ago from a woman who's had her best friend was living in Turkey, and she was describing the restrictions and intolerance that is there towards minority religious groups, where this Buddhist had to be quite covert about her activities for fear of being arrested. So, you know, here we are in this country. We're relatively pretty free, aren't we? We think about the society of the Buddha's day, when society actually supported the possibility of living as a sramana, a wanderer searching for the truth. It was almost a recognized role in society where these people were supported. It was totally accepted, apparently, that they could expect food from villages. and to some extent, the circumstances in our society support um, spiritual endeavour. We experience that to a greater or lesser extent. Another endowment, external endowment that the Tibetan tradition proposes, and it's a bit obvious, this one, again, it's that we're born into a period with a Buddha, that the Dharma has been taught, that the Dharma is accessible. Again, it's easy for us to take this for granted, isn't it? It's just amazing the resources that we have available to us nowadays. Even talking to teachers, say, who started reading Buddhism 30, 40 years ago, they describe how few books there were. You could easily have read all the books on Buddhism that were available in English, if English was your language. And nowadays, there are libraries full of excellent texts and teachings, secondary teachings based on Buddhism. We have teachers. I don't know how many Buddhist centres there are in London, but there's a good scattering and a good choice with regard to the different traditions, whether it's Tibetan or Zen or Triratna. Of course, it's the internet with its vast range of resources. But maybe a danger there, of course, is that our approach to those resources is a bit haphazard. And, it may well be that we get confused through we see apparent contradictions from the different sources. And that's kind of a bit bewildering. So there is certainly some benefit in taking an approach of regular steps, a path of regular steps where you focus on a tradition and sort of master, well, at least become very conversant with that tradition. And obviously we offer that kind of path of regular steps for example, within our movement in the form of Mitra study. Another aspect of the accessibility of the Dharma that the Tibetans suggest is that that it's a lived tradition. That the Dharma it's not just in books, it's not just in written form, but that it's at the heart of it is Sangha. At the heart of it is friendship, spiritual friendship. At the heart of it is mixing with and rubbing shoulders with spiritual practitioners. There's this sense that Sangharakshita says that the Dharma is caught, not taught. And of course, like here we are today, it's just, as I was saying a few minutes ago, that it's so inspiring to come together as a community, which is I certainly find it mutually inspiring. Another endowment that the Tibetan Buddhists propose that's possible for us human beings is Shraddha. This is more an internal condition rather than an external one. That we respond fully to the Dharma that is available. Okay, given that the Buddha has been in our era, given that the Dharma has been taught and is accessible to us, well, do we open to it? Can we open to it? Do we respond fully to it with our heads? So the Tibetan Buddhism describes three aspects to this Shraddha, this total response. It's total insofar as it involves the head, the heart, and the hands. So the head, that we see the Dharma, we hear the teachings, and that we know that makes sense. Rationally, that stands up to critique. So that's the Shraddha, our faith confidence of the head, that response of the head. Then there's the response of the heart, and it was good to see or hear Pranyanita describe the four reminders as the reminders are reflections that touch the heart. So emotion, our emotional engagement with the Dharma is key if we're to have a complete a response to the Dharma, it needs to be a heartfelt response in order for us to engage wholeheartedly. And then finally, the shraddha, our confidence, faith of the hands. That is how I've described it. Some people describe it as the feet. It's the doing part. It's the walking the talk part of the Dharma, the walking the talk part of the engagement and response to that encounter with the Dharma, where we're willfully engaged with it, that we have faith in our own capacity to bridge the gap between us and the goal. And we engage, and we are motivated. There's a longing there to narrow that gap, and that's expressed in deeds. So that's that endowment, which is partially internal, partially external, of if you like, the availability of the Dharma and our receptivity to it. Then there's the question that another endowment, if you like, which is kind of both inner and outer, is just the fact, the question: do we have adequate faculties to take in the Dharma? Are we of sufficiently sound mind and body, if you like? Are our senses sufficiently intact? And of course, that changes with time, because now with technology, our senses can be enhanced. So if we have any disadvantage with regard to the sight or sound, hearing, these can be supplemented. So that this obviously has changed over the millennia. Have we got enough emotional capacity to be capable of feeling compassion for ourselves and for others? That's another essential in terms of capacity. So our emotional capacity, in terms of engaging with the Dharma. So there are some of the considerations, some of the conditions that are described as kind of available to us potentially as human beings in order for that Buddha nature seed to flourish. But perhaps a key one is what's called the blessing of abiding in the human realm. The blessing of abiding in the human realm. And to kind of set it, I need to set a context for this. And the context is the perspective, the Buddhist, particularly Tibetan perspective of the 6 realms of existence. And it's kind of described, I'm sure you're probably familiar with the Wheel of Life, which is a beautiful symbolic presentation, which hopefully you can see now. Now this is in the, you might recognize it. It's from the center, from the West London Buddhist Centre, just as you enter the shrine room. And here we have presented the 6 realms of existence, the 6 realms of life. And the top one that I'm pointing to here is human. And then we have the Deva. Sorry. That was actually the Deva realm. I was confusing. So that's the Deva realm on top, and then the human realm is here, and then these are the Devas. I forgot to mention they're kind of godlike with a small g figures. Down here we have what are called the hungry ghosts in the hungry ghost realm, and you probably can't see that in any detail, but it's a realm of craving. So they're portrayed with very small mouths and very big spoons. What a predicament. Then we have the realm of hell, where there's a lot of, it's hard to make out, there's a lot of flames here. So, then we have the realm of the animals. Again, it's hard to see from a distance that we have these various animals. And lastly, we have the Asura realm. Now, the Asuras are these beings that are obsessed with power. and they're at war with the devas. You can see they're kind of directing their spears towards the deva realm. So, what is this? What is this representing? This wheel of life with its six realms of existence. We can see that these are representing extreme states of mind. At least the states other than the human state are extreme states of mind. And that we as human beings can actually move between these different states. I don't know if you can see here that certain beings are moving downwards and other beings are moving up. So there's a sense of dynamism in this model, or this metaphor. It's an extended metaphor, we could say. And how we move between the realms is through our actions, our karma, our responses to our external conditions. So we move between these different realms, like from the human to the realm, partly partly as a result of external conditions, but also our response to those external conditions. And we can take this metaphor, like any metaphor, you can take it on different levels, in a kind of range between literal and metaphorical. I think it's most helpful taken as a map of psychological mental states, as I say, representing the five realms other than the human represent extreme states of mind. So Tibetan Buddhism would say that some of the key freedoms that are available to us as human beings is to be free of these extreme mental states, free of hatred in the hell realm, free of craving in the hungry ghost realm, free of extreme states of ignorance, such as preoccupation with food, sleep, and sex, for example, in the animal realm. Freedom from extreme states of a competitiveness in the asura realm. So that's what characterizes the asuras. They're obsessed with power. Possession, envy, jealousy mark their mental states. And then finally, the Deva realm that we saw on the top there. Well, in a sense, they're different from what are described as the lower realms. The Deva realm, it's like having it too good, to such an extent that our motivation is removed. Whereas, so I introduce this in this kind of model of mental states in order to set a context for this blessing of abiding in the human realm, where it's a freedom from those extreme mental states. And that comprises of a certain balance, if you like. So a balance of pleasure and pain. So there's not so much pleasure as in the Deva realms. They're constantly in this bliss mode, and they're kind of intoxicated with that pleasure. So, and on the other hand, that there's a balance of pain. That might sound a strange thing to say, but it's pain at a level where we're not overwhelmed by it, that we're not stupefied, if you like, by the pain. We can still respond to our environment, but there's enough suffering there to be dissatisfied with samsara, with conditioned existence. There's a realization that it doesn't quite meet our expectations, and I think we all have this experience. It's pretty universal, and a discontent even perhaps with our experience of pleasure. That maybe you can relate to that sense of having half an eye to the fact that a pleasure will cease actually while you're enjoying the pleasure. It will end soon. So there's a sense that this level of suffering is such as to motivate us to seek happiness elsewhere. That's why it's balanced. That's why it's, in a sense, helping us. Also, there are other positive sides, if you like, to suffering, which, if we experience suffering, we know what it's like to suffer, and we can have a sense of empathy towards other people who we witness as suffering. So it engenders compassion. And also suffering, another positive is that it can kick us out of our complacency and our pride. When things are going so well, we can get a bit up ourselves, can't we? So that balance of pleasure and pain is one of the blessings of living in the human realm, rather than in any of those other lower realms that I've been describing. And those other realms, if you like, that they are states where we are hemmed in by previous unskillful actions. So all those mental states of extreme craving and hatred, they're caused by, according to the Tibetan tradition, traditional model, and Buddhist model, that it's through actions that we achieve certain mental states, that we arrive at certain mental states. So you land in these realms through your actions. So unskillful actions lead to, it's a sort of overindulging in sensuality or craving and attachment, leads to the hungry ghost realm, for example. And there's this kind of vicious circle around action and mental states. They kind of co-evolve. So, actions lead to unskillful actions lead to unskillful mental states. Unskillful mental states lead to unskillful actions. So when you're in the hell realm, when you're angry, intensely angry, you're more likely to be violent. So that's one skillful action following on from an unskillful mental state, which perpetuates the unskillful mental state. It's like we're in those realms, we're stuck in a bind. These are sometimes described as karmic burdens. And sometimes we can feel they're particularly weighty. It's like we feel like we're in a rut, which is very difficult to get out of, to make the effort to have the imagination just to get out of that mental state. But Buddhism would say it's always possible to turn around. Even however difficult to reverse, it is possible. We have the example of Angulimala, who was a mass murderer, and yet he met the Buddha, and he was converted. And then later on, as a monk, he was ordained, and as a monk, he was stoned by some villagers, and he went to the Buddha. I'm a monk. Why are they stoning me? I don't deserve this. And the Buddha said, "Look, you're reaping the karma, the karma vipaka. You're reaping the fruits of what you sowed previously." But the key thing is he had the ability as a human being then to change his life. And it's in the human realm, we have this freedom to act from a broader perspective, if you like, from this self-reflexive awareness, this more panoramic awareness, so that we don't identify with our experience, with our mental states. So we can slightly adapt how we think in that mental state. Rather than saying I'm angry, we can say, yeah, okay, I feel angry. It's a subtle change, but it's less of an identification there. So we experience rather the fleeting nature of those mental states. And that's a key aspect of those realms, that there's movement around. Yeah, they are impermanent. So we're with this broader perspective that we have in the human realm, we can develop equanimity, that non-reactive response, and this is a precursor to wisdom. These unreactive responses produce skillful action, skillful karma, and this is us sowing fresh seeds, if you like, in which we can generate positive fruits, karma vipaka. We can turn things around. Basically, that's what we can do in the human realm. We're not weighed down by our previous action. We can generate new, fresh karma vipaka particularly through compassion and dana, which take us out of ourselves. We go beyond, they take us beyond our limited self-interest. So compassion, we all know, dana is generosity. At small, if you feel really stuck in that bind of a particular difficult mental state, if you can make an act of generosity, just give, find some way to give, that can have that effect of levering you out from that rut, from that bind, taking you out of yourself, going beyond your limited self-interest, like an aeroplane rising above the clouds. Isn't that a lovely experience when you do get above the cloud level and you just have this vista of the clouds? So the human realm allows us to reap positive mental states from fresh positive karma, yeah, which lead to happiness. So to conclude then, what we can do by surveying these freedoms and endowments, we can count our blessings, if you like. We can deliberately focus, spend time looking at our blessings. And this requires effort because it means taking time out, doesn't it? And also it means counteracting what's called the negativity bias. We're kind of hardwired to focus on the threats as opposed to what's beneficial, because in terms of our evolution, the threat might mean you don't live tomorrow. You're somebody's dinner or some animal's dinner. Whereas the benefit might be, extra food somewhere. So you really are tuned. We're very tuned to the threats. So we need to counteract that. There aren't any saber-toothed tigers happily around Acton. So I can just play that particular tuning and put effort into focusing on my blessings rather than taking them for granted. And there's kind of a blessing leads to blessing. So by counting our blessings, we are amplifying the blessings, I think, because by considering our freedoms, endowments, if you like, gratitude can arise, joy can arise. We had a lovely end of the year gathering in our team, West London Buddhist Centre team, where we rejoiced in each other. And it was such a delightful end to the year. It felt, I came out of that feeling really, great to be doing what I'm doing with this wonderful team of people. So why don't we make it a regular practice, a kind of a gratitude practice? And there are all sorts of ways you can do that, of introducing it into your daily round in small ways. Certainly one small thing I do is before I eat, that there is a tradition of grace before meals, which is, it's what it is. I like, before I start eating, I like to appreciate the fact that I've got food in front of me. The sorts of words that I use are: receiving this food, I acknowledge and celebrate the fruitfulness of the earth and the work of human hands that has brought this to me. What I receive, may I give back in generous measure. So you can create your own little phrases or prayers, if you like, that encapsulate your appreciation of the blessings that you have. And then by counting our blessings, it also, by becoming more conscious of them, conscious of the advantages that we have, it's like, with all these resources available to me, I feel more confident in the path, in my potential for enlightenment, my potential for freedom. So it's a boost to Shraddha, this faith, confidence that I was alluding to earlier, which is basically motivation. It's certainly a positive motivation with regard to practice, or when things get a bit difficult. it helps us. This kind of sense of the resources that we have behind us, the benefits that we have, the opportunities that we have, a real appreciation of the opportunities we have, maybe helps us to face our difficulties and distractions. After the initial enthusiasm, our enthusiasms lose their shine. Okay, so this counting of our blessings through consideration or reflection on this precious life. It's a great place to start. We've got these 4 reflections. Great to start on this positive note, setting up a positive context, which then is a basis for reflection on perhaps the more challenging reflections on impermanence and death, which we will move on to explore. Buddhi Leela will be exploring them this evening. Okay, so let us move on to a practice in which we actually put this sense of appreciation, developing, cultivating gratitude into effect. So again, I invite you to adopt your meditation posture. So once again, planting yourself, allowing your weight to drop in to whatever is supporting you, finding that stable, comfortable position. Settling into your body. Tuning into the breath without rushing anything. Just notice what's happening for you now physically, in your thoughts, in your emotions. Maybe tuning a bit more into your breath and the movements, the physical movements associated with the breath, maybe movements around the nostrils, and the throat. Any sensations around the throat with the breathing. And the upper chest. Can you feel the movement of the ribs? And feel into your belly. Any sensations of movement in the belly with the breathing. I invite you now to bring your attention to the heart space. Whatever that means for you. And what's going on there in your heart space. Notice any sensations or any emotions without getting caught up with them, allowing them to be to arise, to be, and to cease, as inevitably they will. A period of the Katanyata Bhavana, cultivation of gratitude and well-wishing. So I invite you to reflect on your blessings in this life, starting with those blessings that are pretty fundamental, the basics, like food on the table, water available directly from a tap. What a blessing. Just the fact of having a roof over your head. Sanitation. Safety when you're out on the streets. The blessing of family and or friends. The gift of health, at least enough to be here. And all those other blessings in the form of day-to-day public facilities, services like the NHS, London Transport, bin collection. Consider also the education that you have received. Consider the blessing of encountering the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And reflect on how your own decisions, your own openness, your own efforts have brought you to this place of relative abundance. With gratitude in your heart, wish yourself well. May I be well. May I be happy. May I be free from suffering. In the second stage, I invite you to bring to mind, in particular, teachers whom you have appreciated. This might include parents. So there could be school teachers, Dharma teachers, maybe your gym instructor or your driving instructor. Perhaps focus on a favorite teacher and bring them to mind. Make them present maybe by imagining their voice, their face. Consider what they have given you. With gratitude in your heart, wish them well. May they be well. May they be happy. May they be happy in their heart of hearts. In stage 3, we reflect on all those people we don't know personally, but whose work just makes our life easier, facilitates our activities. People like supermarket checkout staff, tube train drivers, health workers. Consider the blessings they bring you. Can you find a particular individual, maybe who has helped you very recently, that you don't really know, but they come to mind? You can perhaps see their face, imagine their face. With gratitude in your heart, wish them well. May they be well. May they be happy. May they be free from suffering. The fourth stage, I invite you to reflect on people who have caused you difficulty in your life. They may have had some role in bringing you blessings. Shantideva tells us these people are our greatest friends because they give us the opportunity to learn patient forbearance, one of the most helpful of spiritual qualities. So can you find any gratitude thinking about these people? Can you find gratitude for, despite the fact that they've caused you difficulty, either using this reflection or with a more general sense of having benefited from adversity in your life? Maybe you can think of an individual who comes to mind, who you've experienced difficulties with recently. Again, bringing them to mind, making them as present as you can, and wishing them well. May they be well. May they be happy. May they be free from suffering. So I invite you now to extend your attention to everyone on this retreat, in this virtual space. We're all here supporting each other in one temporary community of practitioners. Can you contact gratitude for this presence and support? Wishing each other well. May we be well, each and every one of us. May we be happy. May we be happy in our heart of hearts. So see if you can now broaden your sense of gratitude and well-wishing to include ever greater circles of people in any way that is meaningful for you. And not just people, perhaps you can extend your gratitude and well-wishing to other living beings, such as plants and trees, that provide the oxygen for you to breathe, or that wonderful bird song out the window. May all beings be well. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free from suffering. And as this practice draws to a close, I invite you to set an intention that if you have contacted a sense of gratitude and well-wishing, can you set the intention to take it off the cushion with you into the afternoon ahead? Just to let you know that we will be running the lunch lounge from 1 until 2 on the same link if you fancy joining a few other people for a chat. Please join us. We appreciate that, these opportunities for informal connection on these retreats on Zoom is not easy to find. So that's why we have these lunch lounges, just to give you an opportunity to bump into a few other people on the retreat. The retreat page is going online, but a link will follow, be assured. And Bodhi Lila has asked that for both of this evening's sessions, if you could bring writing materials, pen and paper with you. They come in handy. So lovely to have spent the past couple of hours with you. And I wish you a very peaceful afternoon, and might see you at lunchtime. If not, see you for our afternoon session at 4 o'clock.